talk. The real point here is what you eat is just so important, and even trying to outwalk overeating is somewhat of a fool's errand, or outrun, or whatever it is. Welcome to the Bacon, Bibles, and Barbells podcast. I'm Coach Justin, joined by Coach Amanda, and today we're going to talk about why your metabolism is not broken. If you see a lot of social media, especially I feel like social media aimed at women, there's a lot of stuff about broken metabolism and, can't lose weight because your metabolism's broken and stuff like that, which is sort of ill-defined. This is not like it's not a scientific condition. It's not a clinical condition. It's not been described in scientific literature. It's sort of like an influencer speak thing, I think. And most of the messaging I see around it seems to step into territory that is very, the most generous term I could use would be presuppositional about human biology. And so we'll talk kind of through some of that and why, there are things that speed up and slow down your metabolism. It does adapt to conditions. But when something's broken, that implies that, it's busted. That's just the way it is. Pretty much everything with the human body, unless you actually have a truly chronic health condition that's irreversible, which most people don't really, or you have an actual terminal illness, which most people listening wouldn't, then a lot of things are fixable. Humans are we're products of our environments. We're products of what we eat, what we do, what is around us at all times. We adapt to the environment that we put ourselves in. And so we'll talk through some of the things that are particularly relevant. Often, hormones are blamed, particularly like thyroid and just hormones in general, which is obviously super imprecise. I've seen a lot of women post things about my hormones are messed up. And I've had even women message me about when I posted things about fat loss being your responsibility. I've had people offended or comment, that, well, my metabolism's messed up or my hormones are messed up. Every time so far I've seen that happen, that sometimes I ask, have you had your hormones checked? Do you know, so what's out of order here? None of them, it never comes from people that have actually had their hormones competently checked that I've ever seen. I'm not saying it never happens. It could totally happen. But at least in my experience, it's people that haven't actually had their hormones checked. And if they did, have them pulled in a blood draw, probably nobody competently even reviewed them anyway. Because most GPs aren't trained really, honestly, to know what they're looking at when it comes to a full hormone panel. And similar with thyroid too. A lot of people like to say, particularly women, but men do too, I'm sure. My thyroid is broken, therefore, da 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 da. Well, your thyroid being broken more makes you feel bad, which leads to bad choices than actual mechanistically causing weight gain. The last study that I saw on the topic estimated that people with untreated hypothyroidism, we're not talking about hyperthyroidism. If you're hyperthyroid, you actually don't retain body weight as easily. And you also don't retain things like muscle mass and bone mass as easily. So it's not like it's all good. But people that are hypothyroid, that have low amounts of thyroid hormone, active thyroid hormone, I should say, it accounted for an estimated 7 to 10 pounds of weight gain in people that were morbidly obese. So we're not talking about a whole lot. We're talking about a few percent of the total excessive weight gained. Nothing huge. I think that the biggest impact is if your thyroid's messed up, you just don't feel good. You're tired.
Yeah.
Your sleep quality stinks, and it's just a lot harder to be disciplined when you feel like that. I have hypothyroidism. I'm on thyroid replacement. When I'm not on it, it does stink. I have low energy. I don't fall asleep. When I do fall asleep, I don't fall deeply asleep. So it's just it's harder. So I'm not negating that it's harder, obviously. But the good news is hypothyroidism is typically very treatable. and you can take care of that. It's also one of like the cheapest drugs out there. So getting it filled, doctors do not resist prescribing thyroid medication. Last I checked, it's not like testosterone. A lot of doctors are still weird about. But as far as thyroid hormones, doctors often pretty much know what they're doing and will readily prescribe if you have any indications.
Yeah, if with thyroid or even hormone stuff, having actual labs and getting the help for it, like that might move the scale a little bit.
Yeah,
because of things starting to work properly, you just have better energy and things like that. It might move the scale a little bit, but it's not going to take you from obese to fit. Like that's not where the issue lies. It's not going to be that huge of a difference. You're
not going to get abs because you fixed your thyroid problems.
Exactly.
It's easier to get abs if you fixed your thyroid issues.
Yeah.
But it's not going to make someone that's morbidly obese even, should we call it regular obese any longer? But it genuinely does make things easier though. Like it's more of it actually helps with compliance. It helps you stick with the diet more than anything else. Because the more tired you are, the less willpower you have. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. And so it's mostly just that like you're not going to have the food seeking behavior as much if you're properly regulated.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is going like we're going to talk about some of the biology things, of course, that do truly manipulate your metabolism. But a lot of this still needs to like come under the overarching concept of what we kind of just talked through. When you live rightly, it's easier to eat what you should, do what you should. And so all of this comes down to your sleep, what you're eating, your activity. Are you getting outdoor exposure or red light exposure, that kind of thing? And you need UV exposure too. We just don't often talk about it because that's usually not what people lack as much, although you may still lack it. But one thing too, like some people talk about like being pig boned and stuff like that. Yes, there are variances in the human skeleton. They're not that significant. Like they're really not. And one thing too, some people have this impression that their bones weigh a whole lot. I think a regular, like average, 5'10" tall man, I think his skeleton weighs about 7 pounds or something like that. And women's skeletons are like 4.5 pounds.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of weight. The bone marrow probably weighs more than the skeleton itself because the bone marrow is actually like wet, for lack of a better term. Like it actually is,
spongy.
Yeah, it's filled with cells and a bunch of and plasma and everything else. But if you actually like dry your bones out and lay them on a scale, they're worth about as much weight as a gallon of water if you're a man. Doesn't account for and for ladies, we're talking about like just over half a gallon.
Yeah. Well, the genetic component for this isn't how big your bones are or things like that. But what can be genetic component is, where you build muscle more readily, where you tend to store fat, things like that. But the whole way it works, how to build muscle, how to lose fat, those things remain the same across the board, even if you might happen to gain a little more lower body fat or a little more around the midsection, or your delts tend to develop faster or your quads tend to develop faster. Those things can be a little bit more genetic, but the process itself is the same.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like you're probably going to carry a similar amount of mass to the next person for a similar behavior. It's just that you might carry it differently. Like, you might store fat more readily in some areas. You might have stubborn body fat areas. You might have muscles that are slow to develop and other muscles that are fast to develop. For me, it's my quads and my glutes, basically. And the funny thing is that's the way it is for most women too, I think, is like quads. Yeah, quads. Well, glutes, I guess, depends. Not all women grow quads or glutes very readily, but like it's a fairly universal thing. Quads seem like the most developable muscle group until you're like a middle-aged man or so. And then for some reason it gets difficult. Guys just develop skinny legs as we age. It seems like a lot of time.
That's about the time when belts start being required.
Yeah. So yeah, there's not genetic variety doesn't account for a whole lot. Your frame doesn't account for a whole lot. And even if you're large framed, guess what? Take out some calipers. It's not, it's like the shoulder breadth from one man to the next, even at extremes, is like a couple inches at most. It's just not that significant of a difference, and certainly not such that it accounts for the actual weight, which is all the tissue. You still put on tissue to fill your frame based on how you eat. Not a whole lot of variety there. Yes, if you have a metabolic issue, you may store differently. You may more readily store body fat because of insulin resistance, thyroid issues, or other hormone issues. Yes, that's true. But we're talking about more of a slight skewing. And I think more what it leads to is just binge eating patterns. And people who eat processed foods, I think, are particularly vulnerable because processed foods make a healthy person feel really hungry. You have a horrible hunger rebound typically on most processed foods. And they tend to be very calorie dense anyway. But then you also sort of have the insidious effect of if you are metabolically disordered somehow, you're just going to feel way more ravenously hungry than the next person who doesn't have the same condition. I think that's really where a lot of it is. And kind of interestingly enough, this is just a tidbit. I'm going to do a reel on this later. I just saw a study that's been reposted on Instagram a little bit that's fairly recent as far as I can gather. I just haven't dug into it yet. And this is this is great because it's how we like to run diets anyway. So they controlled for calories in this study. And it sounds like it was very tightly controlled. People only ate what they were given. Group 1
That's
ate,
rare.
Yeah, very rare. Group 1 ate the same food every day. No food variety whatsoever. Group 2 had food variety, but the same calories, macros were pretty much the same. The scale weight on group 1 was lower at the end of the study. Does not surprise me. So not only do we like it because it helps with compliance, because variety is where compliance falls down within certain boundaries. But the other thing is, we don't know why, but I suspect it's just your body gets more efficient at the same foods. Like your body knows what to expect.
It's kind of the same as, your CNS becomes more adapted to the same exercises in the gym.
Yeah.
If you haven't squatted in a while and then you go to squat, it's going to feel weird. You're not going to hit the same weight. But if you're doing the same thing and you're accustomed to it, I would assume metabolism here works the same way with the foods.
Yeah.
Although you can get intolerant to something if you have way too much of it for a really long time.
Yeah. And I think that happens at both extremes, right? So you at when you're gaining weight or losing weight, you actually need to cycle foods a bit, or you like, even when you're dieting down, I've noticed that I and other clients, you do need variety at certain times, but we're not talking day-to-day variety. We're talking like this meal is chicken for a couple of weeks, then we're going to switch to ground beef or, whatever it is. We're not talking about day-to-day variety. We're talking like, hey, we're getting an intolerance to this thing. Let's switch out the protein or switch out the carb source. And that's just the one little change we make. Not,
it's periodization. Essentially.
Yeah. What a concept. Yeah. It's like we just repeat things that the Russians learned 60 years ago. Basically. So yes, you do need the variety because of intolerances. And by the way, if you're eating what at least in my experience, and maybe you've observed the same, intolerances tend to develop the least when you're eating maintenance, in my experience. You can
I feel like
eat
that's
the same thing
the
almost
body's
forever.
not fighting
change.
So
I think that's and that's a key thing to mention, by the way, too. Your body fights change. Your body is adaptable, but it fights change in general. Although if you have been in a certain state, whether we'll say morbidly obese or you've been very skinny most of your life, typically, the more time that you spend in that state, the easier it is for your body to return back to it. Although there's a proximity effect, so it depends on how long ago it was, proximal to when you were last at that state.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Yeah,
usually.
which is a lot of times, how somebody who is already pretty well muscled and has a surgery and they've got atrophy can usually get it up back to where it was pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once, recovery is done and you're going back to training.
Yeah.
It's that whole muscle memory theory. Like it's the same
Yeah.
with, we see it in bodybuilders who are in preps a lot. They can be in off season, gain some body fat and really quickly get back down because their body knows what stage lean is.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. So, those being extreme examples, but it's the thing that is great about bodybuilding is it kind of gives you the science behind what everybody else is doing on a regular scale.
Men, it's time to reclaim the strength you were made for. Introducing the Crusader Transformation,
a 90-day barbell challenge with the limit of 5. We'll keep this small so you can build a brotherhood with 5 like-minded fathers who value strength as much as you do. Together,
we'll forge competence, discipline, and resilience.
If you sign up now, it's only $800, which is 25% off the regular price. You'll train with purpose, stay accountable, and receive personalized instruction. Join the Crusader Transformation.
Train for strength, lead with purpose. Sign up at crusader.fitness.
Yeah.
So,
would you say that? Because I've never been stage lean. Would you say that? So the first cut down to stage lean is typically the hardest, and then after that, it becomes a little easier. In general,
in my experience, yes, but I think that's partially behavioral. The first time you ever go through a prep, you're really fighting it, and then you kind of learn to know what that feels like and when that discipline kicks in. So I think it gets a little bit easier because of that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the mental component is definitely significant. I would suspect that biologically, there's probably something going on there too. Can't prove it though. But the mental, yeah, for sure. Like, what it takes. You've done it before. You're going to do it again. Obviously, that makes sense. Okay, so like, can you break or damage your metabolism? You can't really break it. You can damage it. But the overarching theme here is going to come down to the body is plastic. It can change. It's adaptable. So most things that you break, you can fix as far as like normal day-to-day stuff. You break a bone, you can heal a bone. You develop type 2 diabetes, you can typically reverse that. If your thyroid's broken, then get on thyroid replacement. You might not be able to fix your thyroid. We don't really know a great way to do it, honestly. Some people, lifestyle does seem to work, other people not. And maybe someday we'll actually know why. But, it's cheap and readily available. So go get some. Like it is.
Yeah, metabolism will upregulate and downregulate. That's usually this is where I hear my metabolism is broken the most often. If somebody has been a chronic dieter, that doesn't even mean that they're very thin. Like, you can be obese and be a chronic dieter. Because you're always doing this huge restrict cycle and then completely binging after it. Like, that is going to affect how your metabolism is working. It's not really knowing what you're going to throw at it the next time. So you get it to the point where now fat's coming off, you're sticking to something and you then throw binge after binge at it, and that's going to be storing as fat, especially if you have no activity that's telling that food where to go. That's going to this metabolism is twofold. It's the nutrition and the training component. So it's not just the food, even though metabolism, the conversation generally revolves around the nutrition part of it, but you can massively affect your metabolism by training properly. You're pulling the right levers to tell your body how to use the food that you're putting in it. Yeah. So it's exactly why somebody on long-term dieting is going to lose a lot of muscle if they're not doing any kind of resistance training. Because you've essentially told your body, get rid of the tissue that doesn't matter. And if you're not being active enough to tell it, keep the muscle, then it's going to be like, well, that's the most expensive tissue. That's going to go.
So we'll talk about what it takes, what does cause it to be slower, what causes it to be higher, just at a high level. So as far as metabolism, so sedentary behavior, obviously. And this is responsible for a lot of weight gain, I think, in general, as we age. A lot of people thought, oh, my metabolism slowed down. It's been studied so many times. Your metabolism barely slows down as you age for carrying the same amount of tissue. It's just that you tend to lose muscle mass. You tend to just get more sedentary as you age, because when you're younger, you're just moving more typically. And as we age, the types of behaviors that we engage in become increasingly sedentary. And so having a healthy lifestyle, the older you get, often looks like having to go out of your way for activity, on some level at least. And like you mentioned, chronic undereating, and then binging, that typically leads to some sort of metabolic, disorder, whether talking like prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, things like that. And like, it's just hard on your body. People that are in that type of yo-yo lifestyle, you need to give your body a break for a while, and eat maintenance for a bit, just to like get things back to normal, de-stress your body, eat a healthy diet, but don't lose weight for a bit. Just chill out for a minute. And yes, hypothyroidism, we talked about that a little bit. And even sex hormone dysregulation can mess with it. Women that have really high estrogen, which is the most common probably hormone issue that we see in women in America, that does lead to some extra fat storage. It's just not that significant. And what I suspect is the scale weight is actually going to be about the same. It's just that composition wise, you do bias tissue growth toward fat storage over muscle when you're in a super high estrogen state, which also usually goes along with testosterone being lower in women. Well, men too, but we're talking specifically about women. You're usually just going to see
also digestive issues, and that's just not going to make you want to eat maybe the way that you should be, because you just feel gross. So
yeah. That's where a lot of the bloating comes from. If you have high estrogen, that the gut it's very cyclical, unfortunately. If you have high estrogen as a woman, it can be caused by low gut motility, but also high estrogen causes low gut motility. And so women clear a lot of their estrogen through the gut, but if the gut isn't moving properly, then you just reabsorb the estrogen that your body's trying to get rid of. And then the more estrogen you have, the slower your gut's going to be able to move things along. And so it becomes very, very cyclical. And so dietary intervention is needed. You can't just do that with activity or training. You do have to change how you eat. And the big culprit is usually, honestly, a high-fat diet, along with potentially like food that you're sensitive to. And there's other things that we can implement too, but those are like, high-fat diets are like the worst for women's digestion in particular. Men seem to be able to handle it a little bit, but for women, the bloating and all that kind of stuff, that's high-fat diets are just, they're the worst for a lot of reasons, but they really mess with women. And of course, one thing that is significant here is lack of outdoor exposure. Not that its direct effect is super profound on the metabolism, but what it means is that you're going to have a more regulated circadian rhythm. So you're going to have deeper sleep that's more productive. Therefore, it's easier to do activities and things you should do during the day. You're going to be seeking sedentary behavior less tendency toward binge eating. Like we keep saying over and over, you feel poorly, you usually tend to eat poorly and move less.
Yeah, I mean, this, along with the sedentary behavior, a lot of times when someone who may have a desk job that you kind of have to sit for a very long period of time, then wants to become active, a lot of the time they'll try to squeeze all of their activity into a certain portion of the day. Like, got 8,000 steps, cool, going to do this all on the treadmill in one go. And that doesn't typically even give as good of results as if they were to get up and move around at regular periods throughout the day. Like, it's almost like you're teaching your body that it's an active body now, not I'm just going to put all this output in and then sit for the rest of the day. So getting outside on your lunch break, go walk around the block, have a lot of watches. You can just set a timer, like remind yourself this hour, you need to go around and walk for 10 minutes and make it more of a part of your day. And behaviorally, that's easier as well. It's less of a barrier to entry than just getting on a treadmill for 40 to 60 minutes straight, just getting up for 5-10 minute walks regularly throughout the day is is going to be helpful for your metabolism, being active in general, and just compliance.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so this is kind of interesting too. I saw a study recently about step counts and metabolism. Did you see this one?
I did not.
Okay.
No.
So this was interesting. So we're talking about the body adapting to like everything. They had a study on people. I can't remember what the lower group step count was, but it was pretty low. It was, a couple thousand steps a day. And the other group took 10,000 steps a day. Steps do burn calories. We know that, it's not a ton, but it is some. What they noticed was, and they used, and this was done via heart rate monitors, like wrist monitors or something like that. So not extremely accurate, but somewhat accurate as far as getting an idea, and body temperature too, but decently accurate for gauging like about what metabolic expenditure is throughout the day. It's pretty good. So anyway, the people that actually had a higher step count, they downregulated metabolically. They actually burned less calories at rest than the people who were sedentary. But what I found that was most fascinating is it was at night. So when they slept, their metabolism slowed down even more. Now, I don't know what this means. Now, that's the funny thing about this. It brings more questions than answers to me, because what were they getting out of that sleep that not necessarily would have had more fat burning potential, but what would have done, not fat burning directly, but what did that do to what we'd call the concept of like energy partitioning? Where was energy going during sleep? It may have been going toward better places than fat storage, and therefore, that downregulation was fine. But I believe it was up to 30% less at night, metabolic expenditure.
Interesting. Now that you're talking about it, I'm like, I remember you posted about this. I just didn't like actually go into the study, but I remember you saying something, and I said, "Great, another reason to be sedentary."
Yeah, that's right. You commented on it. Duh. Yeah. So like,
super interesting though.
Yeah. So walking is super good. Like you should walk, even if it burned no calories. You should walk because that's just how good it is for you. But what it goes to like talk. The real point here is what you eat is just so important, and even trying to outwalk overeating is somewhat of a fool's errand, or outrun, or whatever it is. It's still a fool's errand. Like you're still downregulating somewhere. Again, that might not necessarily mean more fat storage because you've downregulated yourself metabolically only when you sleep. Probably not actually like horribly profound. And my guess is the sleep is more productive. You're probably lower body temperature, probably feel more rested, which is going to also drive better behavior during the day. Obviously, you burnt calories directly, so total caloric expenditure is probably raised for the people that walked, 10,000 plus steps. But what it does mean is there's a blunting effect in the direct fat burning process. Again, I suspect that nutrient partitioning and where the energy is going kind of overrode that down regulation, but we don't have the information to necessarily say.
Yeah, there's a lot of other factors you could put in there. There are people who are maybe taking more steps throughout the day are making better food choices as well. I have no idea, but the study, it sounds like it's just looking at metabolism at night.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They didn't control calories too.
Right.
So people, if you walk a lot, for a lot of reasons, you're less likely to eat as much. And it might be that they just weren't eating a big meal right before bed, or like binging. And if you binge, a little bit before bed, you're going to run warmer and your heart rate's going to be higher.
Right.
And I don't think they control diet at all. So exactly, like, it's not, these studies always have to be read within their lanes. And like I said, it brings more questions than answers. I just thought it was interesting that there appeared to be a down regulation. So again, food matters a lot. So back to where we were going. The number one way, if you want to increase how many calories you burn per day, whether you're resting or moving, the number one way, and nothing else compares to this whatsoever, is gaining muscle mass.
Yeah.
You can't, there's no better way, because muscle mass is expensive. It takes a lot of calories just to maintain muscle mass. The more muscle mass you have, the more calories you burn, no matter what you're doing, as long as you're maintaining it. So training matters. Obviously a lot, and higher muscle mass is also associated with less likelihood to develop metabolic disease in general. You're more insulin sensitive. And I think that's twofold. That's one, you have a place to put glucose and for the insulin to do its job. But you also are going to burn more. And so that's useful. They sort of all support each other. And also the training itself, while you're training and after training for a while, insulin sensitivity is elevated. This includes while you're walking. It's not just lifting weights. Lifting weights seem to cause we call it glucose fluxing more than pretty much anything else if it's intense training. But walking does it too. This is why type 2 diabetics, it's so useful to them to walk after a meal. A lot of people think that that's because you're burning calories. So you're burning that glucose as it hits your bloodstream. No, you're not. If you go for a 10-minute walk, you're going to burn 30 calories if you're lucky. It's not
much at all.
Yeah, which 30 calories is like a couple potato chips. It's not you're not doing that much. It's that you have sensitized yourself to insulin more and you're digesting faster. That's the main thing that's happening. It's not, I burned calories, so I sent that glucose somewhere. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. It'd be nice if it did, but it doesn't. And of course, moving more, that just walking, like you just mentioned, you're better off walking. I tell people, I'd rather you walk, 6 times for 10 minutes than 1 time for 60. It's more beneficial. It's also kind of more practical for most of us. And so getting in the habit of just regular 10-minute walks throughout the day, very, very beneficial. So optimizing your thyroid does matter. Again, more because you're not going to feel crappy than anything else. It does, yes, you will store more body fat if you have a dysregulated thyroid, even if you eat the same diet. But it's really not that much. It's not that profound.
Yeah, it's also not one of those things that you can hide behind this "my metabolism is broken" excuse for, because it is fixable. Even if it requires some medical intervention, it's fixable. You can make yourself feel better so that you can move more and make better food decisions.
Yeah. I mean, I have no low thyroid symptoms when I'm on medication. It's fine. And Bill also, he has had thyroid issues. He's on medication. He's fine. It doesn't hold him back in life. It is very treatable. A lot of our clients are as well. So this is an interesting one too. Eating more. What do we mean? What do we mean by that? So this is within certain boundaries, but it does appear that the more you eat, the more you burn. Now, where is this particularly relevant? It's relevant to the crash dieter that we have been talking on and off about, right? So that person that is down-regulated because they've been crash dieting and then binging and then crash dieting and then binging, you need to eat more than your diet would say you need. And when you're dieting and losing weight, you don't want to eat like when you're binging. There's somewhere in the middle that you need to find that what's my maintenance. And usually going to have to be on the lower end of what your maintenance potential is. Often over a period of 3 to 4 months, you actually can keep adding calories and still maintain your current body weight. It takes, you have to be careful and slow about it. And that doesn't mean...
It doesn't mean just go eat a cake.
It doesn't. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean it's been good for a month. Now every Friday night I'm going to eat a whole pizza. And that's my extra calorie. It's not going to work that way. It looks like adding 50 to 100 calories at week 5 per day. And that's it. We're talking a couple spoonfuls of rice or whatever. It's not a ton, not huge, but you can work, and you kind of want to push that limit to get really metabolically healthy. And then you're going to be most adapted to being able to diet down again.
Yeah. That and chronic dieters are really not getting enough protein most of the time. So the first thing you add in, maybe throw a protein shake in there in the morning or something. Real easy to add in.
Yeah. That's a good point too, by the way. When you are losing weight, you need to keep protein high. because you want to protect muscle mass and training, like you mentioned before too. If you're dieting and not training and getting inadequate protein intake, you're chasing your tail a little bit, because while you're losing weight, you're also reducing your metabolic rate, and so it's going to get it already gets harder and harder the lighter you get. But you don't want that to be from muscle mass loss, because muscle mass is like it's like one of the most precious things we have, as far as protecting from all sorts of conditions, but even in particular, like keeping your metabolic rate up high, or at least as high as you reasonably can. One thing too, getting outdoors more. So this one might sound a little bit strange to people. I'm not even talking about moving. Just sunlight exposure and getting hot. If it's, if you're in a warm environment, your appetite's going to be lower. You're going to be less sensitive to ghrelin. Hunger hormone signaling is just not going to be as profound for you if you've been getting hot and in the sun. A lot of like, we've probably all noticed that, like, a hot day where we're outside moving a lot and sweating, you just don't have much of an appetite. You might kind of that night once you cool off, but during the day, you just probably won't. And it appears that just even sunlight, even if you're not getting like super hot and sweaty and stuff, because a lot of us can't necessarily do that during the day, just sunlight in general appears to reduce appetite somewhat.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about binge eating when I'm outside on a 100-degree day. Like, it's just not going to happen. It sounds uncomfortable.
Sounds gross. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't even sound fun. Like binge eating is fun in the winter for a reason.
Right. That's where all the comfort foods are.
Yeah. And that's why I think, like, when I've lived, because I've lived in like northern and southern states, they're people culturally in the places where I've been, they just eat more in the winter. That's when the donuts, at the office start showing up. That's when, you have the holidays anyway, but even outside the holidays, people are just snacking more. Snacking just goes up. Alcohol consumption goes up. People feel more depressed. People have just bigger appetites in general because they're staying inside. And by the way, going outside when it's cold has a very similar effect. You're just not going to be as prone to wanting to eat tons of food when you're really cold. You may after you come back inside, of course, but while you're actually out in it, it just does seem to reduce hunger signaling somewhat.
Yeah. This is where, I love my heaters when I need them and my air conditioner when I need it. But this is kind of where that, modernity has affected how we relate to what temperature it is outside and how that actually changes throughout the year with how we eat and how we move.
Yeah. Yeah, it has. And it's nice and it's comfortable, but ultimately it's actually not better for us. Use these things wisely, but don't try not to live in air conditioning. Try not to live in a heated, temperature controlled world. It's a convenience. Try to treat conveniences like things that you don't necessarily need and you don't expose yourself to all the time constantly.
Yeah.
Another big one is just sleeping more. And of course, you need to have quality sleep. We're not going to talk. We've done episodes on how to sleep better, but you need it to be quality sleep and longer sleep. People that don't sleep as long, they lose their insulin sensitivity. It'll reduce somewhat. Your hormones will become more dysregulated. You won't feel as well, so be more prone to binge type of behaviors with food. And all of that just tends to lead toward both more eating and, I think, poor energy partitioning in general compared to someone that actually eats or sleeps enough. And for most people, it's 7 or 8 hours. Yes, there are some people that can get away with that are actually not, I won't say get away. There are some people, they actually only need like 5 hours of sleep. If that's you know who you are. Most of you that think you know who you are wrong. It's very, very rare. It is a thing. It is real. It can happen. But it's very, very rare. Most people are just pushing themselves through it and getting away with it, but don't. And in most cases, even been studied, you're not being more productive. After you don't have as much sleep, there's a study, man, it was last year that I read it, but it's basically like you just become dumber and less productive, and also you become more prone to error. So it takes longer to do the normal tasks that you would do anyway. And people think they're being more productive because they're working more hours, just getting things done during the day. And it can work for like a couple weeks, but once you're past that like first couple weeks, you're typically not actually getting more done. It's just, you're just spending more time getting the same things done.
Yeah, definitely.
And then of course, eat for fuel. And what we mean by that is high protein, low fat, and then, as many carbs as it takes to get the job done, basically. Don't view food as a pleasure or escape. That is for, occasions, but it is not for the day-to-day. Day-to-day food should be looked at as, what does it take to fuel my body, just like you put fuel in a car, and satisfy hunger, but not be full. And also ask yourself the question too, before you eat something, how am I going to feel an hour from now if I eat this?
Right.
Yeah.
I do think one thing that's coming to mind, I should have even brought this up earlier, of why people think their metabolism is so broken is they'll do those basal metabolic rate calculators, macro calculators, calorie calculators, and they get this number that now they believe is a goal. Like that's where their metabolism should be to expect a certain result. And it's just not accurate. Like a lot of these, a lot of people who think their metabolism is broken have tried all the tracking apps. And I've been told, like, I've tried all the tracking apps and none of them work. And usually I'll ask, the next question is, did you use the number that it gave you when you put in your information? And usually that's a yes. That number is always wrong. I was going to say almost always, but I've actually never once come across a time it's been correct. So I'm just going to say always wrong. And then the macros they give you is always wrong. So don't let that fool you into thinking that you're broken. You just don't know what that number is.
Yeah.
And you have to find that out for you individually before you make those adjustments up and down with whatever macros there are.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, so it's funny. I actually just brought one up and ran one on myself just for a talking point. So I put it in there. So I'm 37, 5'11", 261 pounds. My basal metabolic rate. So this is if you're like if you're just lying in bed. That's what this is doing. Like lying in bed, you basically don't move a muscle. 2,131. Yeah. Actually, less calories than pretty much anybody could. You like it's almost impossible to move that little. 2,131 calories a day. Sedentary, 2,500. Exercise 1 to 3 times a week, 2,900. I would say that my metabolic rate is probably around 3,500 to 4,000 calories to maintain my size as it is right now, and I train usually 2 to 4 times a week. But if I eat under 3,000 calories a day, I will lose weight, and I would not be in the like highly intense training. Like there's categories for like daily, intense exercise that's long, or like a physical job, which I do not do physical work. I sit at my desk, pretty much all the time, either coaching or helping families with their finances. So like that right there is a number that's skewed in my case because I carry more muscle mass than most people that would put 261 pounds of body mass on there. But if you're someone that is still like, let's say you're 261 pounds and you're overweight, it's mostly fat and you've been sedentary, I don't think many people would lose weight on 2,500 calories a day. When I have a client come to me, like a man that has these numbers and they're 261 pounds obese, I'm going to put them at like 2,000 calories a day, probably, maybe just a little bit above, to get them to lose weight substantially. 2,500, they probably will lose weight, but it's going to be like painfully slow, like really painfully slow. But it's not like maintenance for them is probably like 2,300, I would guess. Like it's really not much. So, and the other thing is like these calculators can give you like at best a cute starting point.
Yeah.
Like, that's nice. Otherwise, move on. Eat those calories for a couple weeks, see what happens. That's fine. And then you got to make a change based on what the scale's doing and how your clothes are fitting and everything else. You're not like it's the equipment that it takes to actually measure what you're burning is not accessible to you. So all we got, the best we have is go off of observation. This many calories makes me gain, lose, or maintain. If that's the case, then you know it's true. And that's as scientific as you need to get. And it's about as scientific as you can get, because it's at that point you've observed, I'm gaining, maintaining, or losing weight at these calories. There you go. Now you know what to do. But most and the other thing too that really throws this off is a lot of people see the the back of every nutrition fact, say, oh, the average calories is 2,000, per day, blah, 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 blah. I think that's 30 or 40 years old or more.
It's pretty old.
And that was between both men and women. So if you're a woman, it's going to always be below 2,000 calories unless you are running a lot, extremely active, or like a 6 foot tall woman. And even then, maybe not.
Yeah.
You'd have to be like a muscular, tall woman for 2,000 calories to be your maintenance, or an athlete. Certain types of athletes, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice round number to develop percentages from.
That's all it is. That's really, really all it is. And a lot of guys, once they're no longer morbidly obese, let's say you weigh 220 pounds. If you want to lose weight, you're probably going to have to eat under 2,000 calories. Mm-hmm. Even if you're fairly, semi-muscular and fairly fit, to get the scale to move meaningfully. And for a lot of women, it's going to be down there potentially, especially if you're short.
Yeah.
I see a lot of influencers, the favorite rant among influencers is oh, if you're a woman eating 1,000 calories a day to lose weight, then you're stupid, basically. Or I've seen some clips your coach puts you on 1,000 calories a day, then they're stupid. And it's well, if someone's metabolically healthy and that's what it takes for them to lose weight, I've had small women that I've worked with, and Emily's one, she doesn't really lose weight meaningfully till she goes below 1,000 calories a day, because she's 5'2", and she's very muscular for a woman. But that's what it takes. It's not because she's broken. We've checked her insulin. We've checked her glucose. We've checked everything. She has really good insulin sensitivity, really, really good. But that's just what it takes. Or add a lot of, cardio and activity. But that is actually what it takes for someone her size to lose a lot of weight. It doesn't mean she's broken. It just means that's what her body does. She seems particularly adaptive to whatever she's doing. There are women that are 5'2", that 1,000 calories could look like extremely rapid weight loss, even when they're not they're starting at a fairly healthy body weight, 150, 140 pounds or whatever, which is on, 150 pounds, if you're not muscular as a woman, is usually a bit, you're not obese probably, but you're probably a little fluffy. But for some of those women, 1,000 calories a day, that might take you down to 120, 115 pounds. And good for you if that describes you. But biology doesn't conform itself to social media platitudes, unfortunately.
Right.
Otherwise, we wouldn't, everybody could just, lose weight easily and it wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah. You might adapt at a different rate. That's just how it works.
Yeah. That's just how it is. And okay, your family was probably the one that survived the famine because you adapt more readily.
Right.
It's not very useful in modernity, but if you were the one that maintained body fat the best during a famine,
you get to live.
Ones that survived. Yeah. So it's not helpful today, but maybe it was helpful 1,000 years ago. And I think we have a lot of those genetics around, basically. So I think we can kind of wrap it up a little bit. Don't overestimate how many calories you're burning, and don't use some calculator online. Calculators online are extremely limited. What matters is how many calories move the scale and how many calories change how your clothes fit, those types of things. Downregulated thyroid does not, or being, having a low testosterone or something like that, women that have high estrogen, that can account biologically for a little bit of body weight. but we're talking no more than several pounds in pretty much all cases.
Yeah.
And again, if you fix your body composition, usually those things get a lot better, particularly in women. Women are the most fixable when it comes to hormones, by the way. Men, it's like if their testosterone production gets broken at a certain age, it just kind of stays fairly broken. I've never been able to take a man naturally that's like past 30 if his testosterone has been low. I've never seen a man or even seen documented a man like getting it above like 500 would be like the most. A lot of guys that, and there's even a lot of guys on social media that have actually used PEDs for a while and been on testosterone replacement. And then in their 30s, they wanted to come off because that's the way they wanted to have kids, or, they just wanted to go back to being natural. They post their blood work. Typically, they're like the best ones are in the 400s, which in 1985, if you were talking to a doctor, they'd have been like, yeah, you're in TRT range, buddy. That's really low. Now it's fairly average because of modernity. So yeah, you got back to like a mediocre average, but that's basically about it. And these are guys that might have produced over, their testosterone level might have been over 1,000 when they were 18 or 20. We don't really know because none of us check it at that age.
Right.
But with women, all that to say, with women, I have seen women get their testosterone in a great range, get their estrogen down, get their progesterone up where it should be, based on lifestyle modification and changing their body composition. Women are very fixable when it comes to hormones, way more fixable than men, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I personally can attest to that from,
Yeah.
getting my PCOS under control just by gaining muscle, losing the right amount of fat, and then staying there. That's the trick.
Yeah, and staying there. So be aware of supplements that say they're going to fix your hormones. Supplements don't. Diet and lifestyle fix your hormones more than anything else, or medication if it's needed. There's no tea. There's no pill. Test boosters don't work. There are some supplements that can lower women's estrogen a little bit, but ultimately you're, basically like trying to like put out a campfire with a thimble full of water. If you're like someone that's actually dysregulated, just don't bother with those modalities. It does take a diet. It does take lifestyle. It takes training. It takes taking all things into account and putting your body in a position where it can thrive. There's no pill. There's no drink that's going to really do much for you. A lot of like the best, like I'll kind of close with like the silliest example I know of. I had someone reach out. This was like a couple years ago. She had a lot of actual diagnosed hormone issues, and she just didn't feel good and all this stuff. Talked to me about coaching, was like, oh, it's too expensive. I'm not going to do it. And some friend of hers convinced her to like buy her supplements, and which were actually more expensive than coaching. Which she did. But the funny thing about the supplement package is it was some sort of like ginger lemon tea with a bunch of junk in it. But the instructions that came with it were the best. The instructions basically said, when you get up, have a protein shake, and then make this tea, and then go outside and drink it until you're done drinking the tea for like 15 minutes, and go for a walk. That's what changed outcomes for her. Was going outside, getting protein in the morning, and walking.
The instructions are the beneficial portion.
Yeah. It almost made me like laugh and be like, man, I should just make a product like that. Just make some.
It's genius, really.
Yeah, it is. Just like, so should we just put lemon flavor and like sugar in a packet and be like, this is the magic thing, but it only works if you walk and eat protein. Like that. It's the ritual worked, like the whole thing worked. But it's funny because if you give a lot of people instruction to just go do those things, they won't. But if you sell them a very expensive tea, then they will.
Yeah.
So don't try to supplement your way out of it. Obviously, these things can be a little bit challenging to implement with real life lifestyles and things like that. If you guys want to turn your life around like 90 days, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help. If you're tired, bloated, all the stuff that we just described, struggling with compliance, why are you hungry all the time? These are typically fixable things that you don't just have to overcome with willpower. Yes, it'll take willpower, but it tends to be quite solvable. People are very surprised at how not hungry they are when they stick to a good diet plan and they have good accountability. So feel free to reach out to us, highcallingfitness.com. And until then, gains and grace.
Gains and grace.